So hi everyone, welcome to Multimodal Weekly. This is a virtual webinar series hosted by team here at TwelveLabs. We've been meeting on a weekly basis over the past 2.5 years or so. Here's some of the topics that we tend to cover on a weekly basis. We have a lot of researchers coming in and talk about some of the newest research direction happening in the field of multimodal AI and foundation models. We have founders, developers coming and share a variety of different like projects that they build with the technology, not just with video, but also in broader multimodal space. We have partners, customers coming and share a very different innovative application that they build with our technology in different verticals. And finally, internal team members coming and share, tutorials and guides using our platform and API. This is a sample of some of the recent projects that we feature in the last month or so. A lot of various interesting use cases, application technology from hackathon participants. We have partners coming and talk about real-time understanding, video understanding, and then research work in multimodal LLMs, video rack, etc. So for today's session, super excited to welcome Robert Raver, who's one of our close friend of TwelveLabs and partners coming from AWS. He's currently, a principal M&E specialist solution architect and worldwide tech lead at AWS, focusing on advancing media supply chain and AI capabilities. Specifically for today's session, he will talk about the media lake initiatives and some of the interesting workflow that developers can be using that the guidance from Media Lake on AWS in combination with the TwelveLabs models and other agentic workflow, right? So this session is really to discuss how a conversational interface can help media team orchestrate complex workflow, such as content discovery, metadata enrichment, and distribution through natural language. Before that, before joining AWS, Robert was working at he had over 20 years of experience working on a very different organization. I think he's mainly focused on architecting cloud-based system that can help optimize media supply chains, tackling industry pain point related to media processing, rights management, data operation, quality control workflows, and metadata handling. So super excited for this session today. And as for the attendees, quick logistical note, feel free to send your question on the Zoom chat, and I'll surface that to Rob Asing after he's finished the presentation. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. And Robert, do you want to start sharing the screen and go ahead and present your screen?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, James. You should be seeing a little slide. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll see it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. I'll go through like a couple quick slides just for introduction up to like what Media Lake is, and then dive into kind of like flipping between the actual like a demo of it, some of the more technical back end of it, like the actual code construction of it, and then potentially some forward-looking stuff as well. But Media Lake, so AWS provides what's called solution guidances. And solution guidances is a code base that we release underneath open source. This one specifically is under Apache license on GitHub. And customers can deploy this, anyone can deploy this and use it, modify it for their own, benefits. And we use, you do this as a way of, showing how we could combine our services together with partner services as well, for providing some value. So Media Lake specifically, we created Media Lake about a year and 15-ish days ago, not to be too specific, but around the idea of what would media management look like if you started from the ground up, like in the world that we're starting to live in with a lot of AI, not only from a single turn search perspective, but from an agentic perspective, a conversational perspective, etc. And so we started building this solution with these kind of four key pillars in mind. And we've really been focusing on the first three currently, workflow orchestration, metadata, and media. And when we broke it down into that, we kind of, we looked at workflows as pipelines, dealing with media management, creating the metadata around it, right? And this is where, Pegasus comes in with creating descriptor metadata or doing structural, breakdown, etc. And then also, kind of like I was talking about with the review. If you went and let's see, let's hop over to I'll do this one really quick. If you went and deployed Media Lake, what you would find is kind of this initial screen. So it's a cloud formation script that builds what CDK infrastructure code, and the code base is mostly in Python, except front end's TypeScript, React. But it deploys this and it integrates with AWS Bedrock and then as well as the TwelveLabs API. And you add the what's called a connector. And if I were to go back to here really quick, I'll just kind of start flipping back and forth a little bit is so connectors in Media Lake, what they do is they attach storage to the orchestration and control plane within, Media Lake, which runs on AWS services, largely serverless, kind of sitting here. And it allows Media Lake to look at the content that is in the bucket already, if you were to do like a sync. But also it configures anything new coming into that bucket. So for example, if you have new photos coming in or, dailies coming in or, production assets, whatever, image, video, audio coming in, it would start to process these when it came in. And when it's processing it, it's doing a few things. It's running pipelines. And in this case, our pipelines are, we do some default kind of video and API or video technical metadata, type of aspects to it. But then we also run the 12 Labs pipelines. And the 12 Labs pipelines, you can see here, we actually have in this one a mix of the API and Bedrock just to kind of show that we could do both. But what this will do is it will invoke the 12Labs Marengo model, generate embeddings, and then bring those embeddings back into the Media Lake to be able to do certain things like search as well. And so in this example, starting with like our single turn search, a good example of this is what we use like what person walking down the runway, right? So like a person walking down the runway is a very semantic kind of way of interacting with content. And if I do that search here, then it doesn't show anything currently. But if I were to enable semantic search, and what this does now is it uses the embeddings and 12Labs to be able to do that. So this search is going back, right, and doing text embedding, and then it's coming back, going to open search and creating a cosine similarity score for the assets that come back from a semantic search or a embedding search, and then it lays out kind of where that is. And here's the confidence or that actual like raw cosine similarity score that comes back for the assets that you could kind of play with and see kind of how it drops out. And we do that, we have the ability to come in and be able to kind of configure here where you want to go. For example, like if you want to use the API for one reason, or you use Bedrock. And then by using Bedrock, Bedrock accesses the content on S3 directly to create the embeddings and then send it back. That is, the 12Labs Marengo model. We do have what we started to introduce is the actual video understanding from a Pegasus, vision kind of capability. And what we have here, or what we've done here is started to do this. So this is another kind of rough reference architecture for Media Lake. And this, you can find this online on, if you could look up guidance for Media Lake on AWS as reference architecture. But when 12Labs hosts both models on AWS Bedrock now, is we introduce this kind of agent layer. And the goal here is to be able to have a user be able to use a single turn search interface to be able to do something like I was just showing you, saying like, a person walking down the runway, right? Let's pull that back up, right? Um, so be able to do something like this and be able to find uh, a piece of content. And let's say they go into this content. I think yeah, one here as well, or yeah, so say like actually we'll do this. So you could break it down by clip too. So what this is showing is each moment within the actual clip. And if you to come in here and it's having fun loading. Second, let's go here. Sorry. Hopefully my Wi-Fi behaves right now. So when this is loading, take a second, I'll flip back to this. It will load what you found from a search perspective, right? So like in this instance, a single, person walking down the runway in a dress. Now, what that doesn't tell you is specific details. That's fun about that. Give it a second. So what the conversational interface is meant to do is be able to look at the video in a dynamic way and be able to respond to it with what you're asking of it, which of course it's not having fun rendering it here. We'll try that again really quick. Um, and then does that wheel do, let's go back here really quick. So what we did is we introduced Bedrock to that, and of course, right when it here's one right here then. This one rendered. So yeah, here we go. Just took a second. So this is all the different actual search results for a person walking down the runway, right? And it is sorted by score. And so you can kind of see here, maybe you won't blast your ears off with the video. So you can see here that these are the top matches for this. This is an example of making the cut from AW or Amazon Studios, but it doesn't. It tells you that moment in time from a segment perspective, and so what it won't tell you is something like, "Hey, summarize the video for me, right, as a whole. What's happening in this video?" Or be able to do things like show me. The best highlight moments of this video. And so the conversational interface here is meant to be able to do something like that, where it says, how many times did this happen? Or, summarize this video for me, type of it, and be able to do that. And what we do, or how we do that is in our workflows, we have the ability for what we call agents. And this runs on Amazon Bedrock, AgentCore. And so AgentCore hosts all of our agents here, and those agents can be created via different types of SDK platforms, right? So Strands SDK, Crew AI, or other, popular Agentic or agent AI frameworks. And those are hosted and then started and ran when you are doing this. So for example, I've created a coordinator agent or kind of a meta or tooling agent that interfaces directly with what is happening here. And so for example, if I ask like what can you do, it will look at the different agents. So this is the coordinator agent responding, and it'll look at what's available to be able to do things like advanced video analysis using TwelveLabs. And so here you can see that we have the TwelveLabs enabled, and then you also could do things like asset distribution. And so the goal is to be able to connect the agents together to be able to say, hey, find me the moment that the person is walking down the runway, create a new video out of it, and send it to this partner or this person of, that I have with, maybe my asset distribution agent. And so when doing that, you are interfacing with this, and the chat interface is aware of what is happening, or it's contextually aware. And so, for example, if I'm here and you want to summarize this video, it's going to be looking at what are you looking at, and then the UI would hand it the actual S3 path of what's happening and everything. And I did here, sorry, run into one small issue beforehand. So I wanted to show kind of like what that looks like here on when we did this in a demo. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so like this is an interface of like what we did at IBC from a demo, and what we have there is we did the same thing, and in the actual agent we are asking it to summarize this video, and that engaged the Pegasus model or the video understanding agent, and then went and summarized this video, and the instructions of the agent gave it quite a bit of what it should do. And so in this case, one of these race videos, you can see that it gave the on the right the actual structural breakdown of what is happening, the type of environment, cinematography, driving performance, etc. And that was a combination of the user, me saying, "Hey, summarize this for me," and as well as the instructions for the actual agent. And so if you come back to here, we have these agents running on, Strands SDK with a set of instructions. They're accessing the Pegasus, model through Bedrock, and then they're passing the video to it to be able to do the analysis with a set of instructions. And let me just do this. Let me take a quick look over here, give you this. So do this. So this is getting into the actual instructions of what is happening a little bit here. And so if I come to the interface and I go to, let's see, like the video understanding agent here. So these are the set of agents that I have enabled or running on Media Lake right now. You could see that it's a direct correlation with So in the repo, you can see that we have this agents folder, and you can see that it's a match with kind of what you were seeing in the UI, right? Asset distribution, our coordinator, image editor, template. We have a shared directory for some shared files. And then the TwelveLabs agent here we have with the instructions. And so we provided a set of instructions that's passed to the Pegasus model, that helps guide the context of what Pegasus responds back with and the tools to be able to understand it, right? And so the agent uses something like Claude as an LLM to be able to do the reasoning and do the actual SDK/API calls to Pegasus. And we tell it to use and analyze video with Pegasus. Here's, the S3 object path, and here's the analysis prompt that we give it for the video analysis. And the analysis prompt is what is passed in with a combination of, what we have for the instructions for the agent plus what the user was just typing. And so in this example, the analysis prompt would be like summarize this video for me. And then if I was on this asset and I come here and do the same thing, right, is summarize this video for me, the actual prompt would be summarize this video for me, and the video that I'm on would be the S3 path. Let me go back really quick. Yeah, so the S3 path here. And so the agent passes the video over with the S3 path, with the prompt, and then we provide this instructions. One of the interesting things I've seen when talking with different, people about this over, the course of a couple months now, because we showed this at IBC, which is in mid-September, right? So about a month and a half now, is the concept that, the instructions that are helping give information that you might want to have agents that are very specific to even a type of sports. And so you might have agents that engage with 12 labs, and use the Pegasus model that provide some understanding or better kind of guidance on, hey, you're interacting with, this type of video, right? This very specific type of like maybe drift racing. And these are certain parts of it that you want to, focus on or not focus on. And so by creating the instructions and creating different agents that are specialized for different personas, like even, type of content, you're able to help guide and get the responses back that you want here. Um, and so in this instance, what we do is we are able to bring that back to the user. The user would be able to use that either metadata to go and fulfill downstream distribution systems. So for example, taking that and then taking these clips or highlights from the actual video and then creating a pipeline for distribution. Um, and so in this instance, when we get into pipelines, we have something very similar where we could come in here and off of the new video, let's just say like new video. Once we say like a workflow is completed, so in this case, Media Lake has a low code, no code kind of interface that we're growing and that will let you kind of build media workflows for things like distribution. And so once we say, whether it's the 12Labs embeddings being created or, the default workflow, um, we have the ability of creating utilities, and then you also have the ability of creating your own nodes here. And so here you could see as an example where we have like the 12Labs integrations for the API, as well as Bedrock results. And then we also have another Bedrock node here. Let's see here. Rock content processor. That also be able to select models. And so the goal with this is to be able to take the different nodes, put it together, create a distribution workflow, and take the metadata produced from Pegasus or the clips that you found with the search with Marengo to be able to do the distribution workflows. And I'll show you a little bit more on the 12Labs API one. So this is the 12Labs API for video embeddings that interfaces it. So this actually goes to the API, creates it. Now, the Bedrock one is very similar. Let's just look at the Bedrock one too, where from the 12Labs Bedrock one, when the video is done processing, we start invoke the 12Labs Bedrock Marengo model to be able to generate the embeddings to bring those back to be able to then do the search here. And then in a very similar fashion, you could create a workflow to, once you find something and you want to do a distribution, on it, you could then configure this to do, forward-looking distributions, or forward-facing. So I'll share a little bit about, let's see here, one second. Yeah, so I mean, this is it's kind of a quick example of the different agents that we have and that we are looking to fulfill. And so in this instance, what we are looking at is if a customer or you had a title agent, a rights agent, the video understanding agent with 12Labs, Pegasus, an asset and a delivery. you would be able to, from a distribution perspective, say, show me, give me my highlights for this title that I have rights to that I can, actually publish as content on a different platform, right? Like, whether that be social or, somewhere else in a different country. Um, then summarize this content based off of, the Pegasus model generating that metadata and then deliver that content to someone else. And so the goal here, again, is to kind of put together the components to create a dynamic workflow and fulfill that using the different agents plus running on AgentCore, and then having Media Lake kind of stitch them together and have them interact with each other. Uh, I'll take a quick break. And I don't know, James, was there any questions or
Yeah.
anything?
Yes, there are two questions from Nader. I can read them out loud so you can answer them. The first one is about the embedding generation. He asks, does it index the image itself, the clip description, and the transcript if the video is a conversation or meeting?
So it'll do what is in here. So for example, if we have an audio transcription here, it will create the audio transcription, and then save it to that. When it generates the embeddings, it will generate both, you use the Marengo. It
Mm,
will generate both the visual embeddings and the audio embeddings, that the Marengo model provides, and then it will bring those back, and then it will be able to use those. And so from a kind of like audio or transcription perspective, we use the audio embeddings for that. And then from a visual perspective or video perspective, we use the visual embeddings.
mm,
Now, if there is a keyword search that you want to do, that you want to do like a really like, match on something like that, it can do that as well.
yeah. And maybe a follow-up on that, during that workflow, do you have a so combining visual embeddings and auto embeddings together, right? Do you just like combine them, or do you like put a specific emphasis on a certain modality embeddings than the other, depending on the video content itself? Because the
Yes, that's
question here is about conversation and meeting, so I assume that a different video than like spot, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So in our first version of our search, what we were doing was kind of a little kind of a static, way of doing it. Now, what we are moving to is the ability to be able to create um, the dynamic ability of waiting in a feedback loop for embeddings. And so for here, this is what we will be releasing here in by end of year, is that we will use the um, Marengo model to produce like visual embeddings and audio embeddings, and the ability to put them both into OpenSearch as well as a graph database, to be able to start understanding the relationships between other, assets that are closely related, or, people within assets, etc. And so what happens in this instance is when you do the search on the UI, it will go to the Nova, either light or micro, LLM, and it will say, hey, for example, when I do a search for, show me when people are in an argument, right? That obviously is very audio heavy, right? You want to be able to know that from an audio perspective, I'm arguing with somebody. And so the LLM would weight and give what the kind of weighting or re-ranking is of those, you know, scores or the search that comes back. And so in this instance, at the same time as sending that request to the LLM and asking, hey, how should I weight the search results that I'm getting? We're doing a search for both visual embeddings, audio embeddings, and potentially keyword, right? And then when those come back, and the LLM comes back with what it believes the user intent is. Like they're searching for an audio, people talking about this versus I'm looking at this. Then the Lambda will calculate it based off of what the LLM provides as a weighting, and then provide that result back to the user. And then the goal here is that we also have a feedback loop mechanism for being able to fine tune that over time on the instances, that specific instance deployment.
But yeah, thanks for a very clear, technical explanation of how that embedding weighting process work and to the point about dynamically capture, um, you know, the more important modalities, right, given the specific um, type of data, right, and also the choice of like model as well. Maybe some are better for like a certain modalities. I think that's quite a very important like decision. Um, So the same question that Nader also raised in the chat is, how is the metadata being generated, and is there a way to override the prompt change for that? So I think this touched on your demo of the Pegasus metadata generation and kind of that instruction.txt file that you
Yeah.
talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a combination of different prompts that are being passed into it, right? Or a merging of prompts. And this goes back to kind of the instruction set. And so what happens within Media Lake, and now that AgentCore has gone generally available from a service perspective, I think a week, maybe 2 weeks ago now. Time flies. We'll be releasing this into Media Lake because it's GA. We try to wait for GA since services are available in more regions. Um, but what happens is it will look at this kind of directory structure here. And what we have is this kind of agent array. And so this is what tells Media Lake to say, hey, these are the agents I want to build. And every time you do a deployment, it's going to build and deploy this. Now, what that does is it looks at the instructions that are in the agent or a specific agent. And so if you wanted to change the instructions, or say you wanted three different agents, one agent specializes in visual understanding for car racing, one is for football, and another one is for, I don't know, plants. Looking at bamboo over there, so we'll go with plants. Then you could create separate agents for those, right? And you could actually give it instructions on how you want it to, view it, or maybe some pro tips on like, hey, when I'm looking at bamboo, I want to look at and see if it's this different type of bamboo or whatever. And that will build it. And this coordinator agent here, I'll go quickly over here, this is what ties it in. And so what we do is um, we basically invoke every time you chat with the agent, we're hot loading the actual agents. So what meaning is when I'm in this agent screen here, this agent screen is really being populated by a DynamoDB table on the back end. And if I come in here and say, hey, like I already did this, I turned off my image editing agent. What happens is it goes into DynamoDB and says, hey, you're disabled right now. And so when the agent loads itself, let me go back. I don't know, my cursor does not want to do that. So when this agent loads itself, it will look at and it'll do a list of available agents, right? And so that lists what active agents there are. And then it looks at the agent info and what they're capable of. And so when it does that, it will understand that, hey, I have these three different types of agents available to me, right? Like soccer, racing, and bamboo or something. It will then understand that those agents are specialized or, in that type of visual understanding, or, a different method of, maybe metadata production, right? So for example, a good example of this, what we get into, or I'm getting into a lot, is um, a specific schema, right? So if I have a specific metadata schema that I want to fill, I want to be able to pass that metadata schema in with the agent request saying, hey, these are your key value pairs, or this is the enums or whatever, fill it and do that. And so this will be able to let you do A, the instructions, and B, like the customization of what metadata is produced as well. It's kind of a long answer, but yes.
Perfect. Before we move on to the next question, I could love to maybe learn more a bit about kind of the some of the agentic offerings in general from AWS, right? I think in your architecture diagram, you mentioned both like strands, AgentCore, right? Could you be able to like maybe provide a very high level overview about the differences between like the open source and then the kind of the package platform to target agent building for developers?
Um, Yeah, let me. I'll try to do it justice. Yeah, so Agent Core essentially gives you the ability to run the agents, and so when you're looking at this right here, what you'll find is this Docker file here, as well as the instructions, and then some memory hook right as well. And so the Agent Core service will provide you the ability to run an agent as a container. And so what's happening here is it's building a container and then it's running the actual agent using Strands SDK here. And then I'll like come over here and kind of show you the actual agent itself. So this is the actual agent itself. And you can see that these are the tools that are available, and I'm importing kind of the Agent Core app as well as the memory. And so Agent Core gives you the ability to build agents using those different agent frameworks and cross, the majority, the popular frameworks, even like, Google's agent framework, you could run on Agent Core as well. And then you have the ability to plug into like the tools it has available. So it does have the ability for what's called a gateway, and a gateway is to like translate, agent tools to like a Lambda function for, maybe existing API lambdas or existing code you have in your environment. It has like the ability for a browser, so you can use the Agent Core browser tool to then actually start browsing the web. A great example for that is like I want to be able to look to see if something is actually like up on, if I distributed something that's actually there on the, platform. And then it has like a short-term and long-term memory ability. And so, for example, on the short-term and long-term memory ability, short-term would be, like within this conversation, that it knows what I'm talking about, and it looks at what we're talking about. Long-term is, hey, if I actually, killed this conversation or logged out, logged back in, started a new conversation, and did that over a course of multiple days or weeks, the long term will compact and summarize those conversations to be able to give it a long-term memory of what's been happening over a longer, not just a single session, over a longer duration. And then once you do that, let me come back to where we were. Wait, sorry, cursor's being filmed. Nope. There we go. So once we come back to that, so here I'm importing the Strands SDK. I'm implementing some logging via the Strands. I'm creating a session context. Memory can be shared across different agents as well, right? And so, for example, if I have, the two agents as I was describing earlier, one look at what they are doing, they do that, and then we're evoking it here. So if we were to come over here and look at the TwelveLabs one, you see here that I am loading the file and then come down here. So here is the integration with actual Bedrock here. And so on the TwelveLabs one, what we do is we integrate with the AWS, the Boto3 SDK, so the AWS SDK in Python. We look for the inference profiles and the regions. So we determine what region we're in. So for example, like EU West 1 versus US East 1, right? We look to see if there is any inference profiles available or which one it should use. And then it invokes it. And then, of course, does some error handling here. And then that way, it looks at like the models as well, right? And so it's able to look at and ensure that it's using the latest model, the latest Pegasus model, and do that. And then it gives you that prompt as well. So that's the construction, right, of the different agents. This one, again, Strands SDK on AgentCore, but it could be any other like Crew AI, etc. Um, and then the tools that you provide it could be a couple the tools that I was mentioning that are available via Bedrock or AgentCore Bedrock, or the tools that you specify, like what we did there.
Fantastic. Yeah, super excited about, some of for the GA AgentCore, right? I think like everyone is pretty excited about that one. And then actually, fun fact, 12 Labs indeed do have like a first party API integration with the Strands Agent Tools repo. And it was basically our PR was merged recently, so we hope to like announce and promote it like probably like next week to get more the open source kind of folks to get involved with it. So I think kind of the combination of both on the Strands side of thing and the actual agent core, I think make like a very powerful like agentic experience, right? For the person interested in building like custom agents for their workflows.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. We'll be probably switch over to that then.
um, So I do want to touch on this question from Eric. I think he's going to go back to kind of be going back to talk about embeddings and kind of Marengo a little bit. His question is that could you explain the difference of traditional text metadata and numerical embeddings of vectors so that you are not just matching metadata keywords for search results?
Yeah, so let me come over here and see if I have like a good couple examples. So keywords are going to be, so if I were to do a search here, and the semantic basically flags this to say, hey, I want to route this and do the generate the embedding, do the search, right? So this is keyword search on, so this is going to the exact same open search index, doing a search against that same search that I would do if I was an embedding search, and it's using this as a actual keyword. And so you can see that like here, uh, obviously it's not a match at all. And it's using fuzzy matching or keyword searching based off of the metadata that is in here to pull this up first. So um, I'm not going to, let's see here. Let's do yeah. Let's just try a person, right? Like this has some a person in there, right? So this is an example of like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a keyword search and I actually find that there is a person in the actual keyword. So it's going to return those results back and be here. But a great example of like here is from a semantic perspective, or a visual perspective, like I actually have people here in these images, have people here in these images, and I am able to, because of the keyword, it doesn't pull those back. And so here, if I'm doing it from a semantic perspective, it's finding people in these videos and it's showing you where in the video they are. But also, for example, this image of a hiker, it doesn't have a person in the keyword at all. And so it's now ranking that higher semantically. Um, so, you know, kind of night and day difference, honestly, like between your search habits and what you're surfacing here.
And then probably just to follow up on that one, you recommend, is there like a difference between like uh just semantic versus like a hybrid between keyword and semantic? Like when do you want to use only embedding versus when you want to like kind of combine the metadata and the embeddings for hybrid search?
Yeah, so some of the searches that we find that are really good in that instance are potentially like known, what I would call an entity, like, and so the where we're going with Media Lake is you'll see a schema management, prompt management, kind of ability here. And so the prompt management would be kind of what you're seeing in the, code with like those prompts. We'll be bringing that into the UI to make it. And then from an entity perspective, you'll be able to define something like known celebrities or people, right? So a great example of like this is let's just take me for example, like Robert Raver. If I'm in these videos, I wish the model would know who I was because that means I'd be all, really popular, but it doesn't. um, at least, not yet. But if I were to do a hybrid search and I were to tag that video saying, hey, this is Robert Raver in this video, and I have, say 20 videos of Robert Raver or myself, and I want to find the video with Robert Raver and I'm playing soccer outside, that would be a great example of where, from a keyword perspective, would want to hone in as Robert, into Robert Raver as a known entity or person. And then from a semantic perspective, I would want to be able to then look at that, those videos and say, hey, is he playing soccer outside? And then be able to combine those two and surface it up.
Absolutely. And actually, our team at 12Lab is also working on some really exciting
Yeah.
features for, I guess, touch on that Kubernetes entity collection in research, which will soon be announced in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. If you're interested in new Kubernetes about models. Um, Maybe uh, also one comment. I'm curious about that kind of like agent builder workflow that you showed on Made like. Maybe more like insights, but like looks like kind of the way Agentic development is moving now is also try to target like sort of more like non-technical users with like visual drag and drop agent builder workflow style, right? We see that with like OpenAI have like the agent builder. We see that with open source framework like Langflow. We see that with like NHN integrate, for example. What are your thoughts on that? Like what are some of the like benefits of like a drag and drop like canvas style of building agent versus like actual like code focus? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where when we start to build, that's where I do see it heading there as well. Now, because this is solution guidance, we kind of give the ability for, you could get as low in the code as you want or tear it apart if you want, and all the way to just, I'm using the UI and maybe I don't even want to see the AWS console. From the UI perspective, that's where like getting into prompt management, where it's not only prompt but instructions of an agent, and then being able to dynamically build that agent based off of, hey, I want these tools with this. There's a open source integration platform called NAN, and I think they do a really good job about doing exactly that, right? Where they like, here's my agent and here's my tools associated with it. We're going to be doing something similar where there's a UI where you could build the agent, and then in the actual pipelines themselves, you have the agents available in this pipeline here, and so I could drag and drop the agent into the middle of a workflow, right? And so for example, a workflow like this might be, I want to extract my technical metadata out of my video file, right? Like, I don't think an agent will ever want, we probably should never replace that with an agent, but because it's just so easy. But the next step might be that agent, and that agent, might be Pegasus, saying, hey, I want to populate this this descriptive metadata using the agent. And so my belief is that we're going to see where there's this blend of where deterministic workflows, like simple functions, live right and blended with, these very advanced agentic AI abilities. And so you kind of are swapping in between them. And whether it's through a workflow or through a conversational interface in the UI, it's kind of a holistic, unified ability to interact with media in different ways.
Perfect. Um, See, we have about 4 minutes left in the call, so I think we'll probably do two more questions. So Swati got this technical question: how do you evaluate the performance of agents?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's come up quite a bit that I've seen. So this is there are frameworks out there or tools or companies that are building solutions for that. I'm not familiar with exactly all of those. But they're what we plan on doing, or what we believe in, and what I've seen from people kind of asking is the ability to trace, metadata lineage as well as model inference lineage, right? So if I'm using, let's just say model one, and it produces that metadata, then I am going to tag that and no. And so let's say model version two comes out, and I now know that, this model version two is producing this metadata. What I was on a call this morning that was actually just about this is like, being able to compare those metadata against each other, or side by side, and say like, hey, this is how it's different. But also even having an alias where it says, hey, my production metadata is using version one, my test metadata is using version two, and then that gives you the ability to do like a comparison and say, hey, is it better? Is it the same? Is it worse? And then kind of, promote it in a life cycle management. But, on ultimately you're getting into like kind of like A/B testing,
Mhm.
judging quality of metadata and promoting it through a life cycle.
And just a follow up on that, sorry, asked, is it possible to integrate reinforcement learning model to improve agent performance?
To do like reinforcement within the agent, or to do like fine tuning of an agent.
Yeah, I think that's the question. Like I
So,
are good.
oh, go ahead.
Yes, yes. So I was thinking maybe it's like because just that's you see all the frontier lab these days research like release blog posts and papers on using IR right to improve agentic capability. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, I think it breaks into two kind of sections. Is like, so when I'm interfacing with an agent, right, I have the reasoning capability of an agent that is taking what you're doing, trying to understand it and act upon it, right? That's just the basic reasoning. In this example, I think we're using Claude,
Mhm.
the latest Claude, I think four on this one, right? Then there's the actual tools that are available to the agent, right? And so if you're thinking of like LoRa's, and fine tuning based off of like, looks, or even the, what you were just mentioning about like some of the entity stuff that, TwelveLabs is working on and will be releasing, those are, I think the tools that the agent is using are the ones that are going to have the ability for fine tuning to be
Mhm.
able to provide like specific, unique entity recognition, or, consistent creativity within, creating content. But so it's more so the tools that the agent uses, and not necessarily like the very specific agent model itself.
Yeah, so equip the agent with like as much context and tooling, like context engineering, right, as possible to like hallucinate less and
Yeah.
retain. Yeah,
I,
so I think that's
yeah.
the point.
Ideally, no
Awesome.
hallucinations.
Fantastic. So yeah, so we're at 10:30. So I guess we can close up the webinar today. Really appreciate Rob for preparing the slide and a very in-depth demo. Also really appreciate the attendees for come up with highly technical questions that go over the architecture, the design, specific insights that's challenging, right? As we build multimodal agents. So yeah, the recording of this session should be available probably next week. And yeah, our team at TwelveLabs consistently leveraging and working very closely with AWS teams, and we have a lot more exciting product and business announcement coming up soon. So yeah, if you get interested from this session, we'd love you have to stay in touch and follow some news updates about work. Yeah, with the Amazon team. Thanks, everyone. Happy Halloween, and hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Cheers. Bye.